In these next two examples, we will talk about how to find the center and how to find the radius of a circle when we're given its diameter. So remember, the diameter, you could think of it as the width of the circle. It's really equivalent to 2 radii going through the circle. And the diameter always goes through the center like the radius, and its endpoints are both on the circle. In this first example, we're finding the center of the circle given the endpoints of the diameter. So it has a diameter with endpoints of 9, -2, and -5, 14. And if you think about what you know about a circle, the center is right in the middle of the diameter. In other words, the center is the midpoint. That might even be something I would write down in my notes, is that the center is the midpoint of the diameter. I'm going to write D for diameter. So all we have to remember how to do is from Unit 1, how to find the midpoint. And I think there's just 2 ways. Maybe there's more than 2 ways I showed you. But one of the ways I showed you was this way, and I'll show it to you again, that we could sort of make a little table for our X and Y values. And we could say that we're going to put the end point here. We're going to leave room for our midpoint and put the other end point here. All right, so if I put those points in my table, I have 9 and -2, and I have -5 and 14. And so if I look at the change in that, so like my change in Y, for example, from -2 to 14, I'm increasing, and I'm increasing by 16. For my change in X, from 9 to -5, I'm decreasing, and I'm decreasing by, what, 14? Yeah, decreasing by 14. So that's the change. So if I split those differences in half, from -2, if I just increase 8, that should get me to my midpoint. So -2 plus 8 is +6. Then double check it, because if I add 8 more to that, I should be at the other endpoint. If we check over here, my difference was -14. So if I subtract 7 from 9, so 9 minus 7 is 2, I should be at my midpoint. Subtract 7 more, and I'm at -5. So my midpoint of the diameter is the point 2, 6, and that's going to be our center. So we found the center. The one other method I maybe showed you back in our first unit is that anytime you're finding the midpoint, and this only works for midpoint, you can take the average of the X values and the average of the Y values. So if I look at my X values, I could do 9 plus -5 divided by 2 to get my new X value. So 9 plus -5 is going to be +4, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's the X value of my midpoint. Then I do the same with Y. So I would use -2 plus 14 divided by 2. -2 plus 14 is 12, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So we still get the ordered pair 2, 6. In our last example, we're asked to find the radius of the circle given that its diameter has the endpoints of 9, 2 and 1, -12. And so when we're asked to find the radius, we're asked to find the length of the radius. How long is it? So a couple of important relationships to remember is that one diameter is equal to 2 radii. Additionally, that half of the diameter, 1/2 of the diameter is equal to 1 radius. So if we can find the length of the diameter, all we have to do is divide it by 2 to get the radius. And that's one other way of writing this, is diameter divided by 2 equals radius. So we can find the length of the diameter by using the Pythagorean theorem. And I know I didn't give you graph paper here, but we could just kind of sketch it and think about those numbers. So if I want to sketch that, let's see, I'm going to just kind of draw a coordinate plane. 9, 2, I might say, is out, I don't know, here-ish. We're going to remember that that's 9, 2. And then 1, negative 12 would be maybe like down here. All right, so this is our diameter of our circle. We said this is 9, 2, and then this is 1, negative 12. All right, so if I draw a right triangle connecting these points, I know I'm not really on a plane, a coordinate plane, but we can just think about this. My change in x, I'm starting here at positive 1, and I'm going over here to 9. So to travel from 1 to 9, I would have to move over 8 spaces. So that's one side of my triangle. And then my change in y, well, if I'm down here at negative 12, and I'm going all the way up here to positive 2, that's going to be a change of 14. So my triangle has legs of 8 and 14, and the diameter is the hypotenuse of that triangle. So now I could use my Pythagorean theorem, 8 squared plus 14 squared should equal the length of the diameter squared. So 8 squared, 8 times 8 is 64. 14 squared is 196, and that should equal the length of the diameter squared. All right, so 196 plus 64, well, let's see, 1 plus 6 makes a 10, so we carry the 1 over. Then 6 plus 9 plus 1 is 16, carry the 1 over. 1 plus 1 is 2, so we should get 260 is our diameter squared. So by taking the square root of both sides, I get my diameter. So my diameter is the square root of 260. Now to find a radius, all we have to do is divide that number by 2. So the radius is the square root of 260 divided by 2. And so we could write that as 260 divided by 2. Boomer. I'm sorry, my cat is very passionate about geometry. So we could write that as the square root of 260 divided by 2, and then we're probably going to want to use a calculator to approximate that as a decimal. If you take the square root of 260 and divide that by 2 in your calculator, you should get approximately 8.062. 8.062.